those who are eavesdropping on us today, this is Inspiring Leaders to be Extraordinary. Welcome. I'm here with Rebecca Colwell. She's the founder of 10 Directions. She's a leadership innovator, and she is somebody that I have grown to highly respect and love as a person and a friend.
And it's mutual.
Thanks. So I am super excited to have this conversation with you today about authenticity, Rebecca. I know we've had this conversation or part of this conversation in the past, and I love your passion around it. I obviously have some passion around it too, and I'm curious. I don't know that I know this. Like, what has drawn you to this topic of authenticity?
Oh my goodness. I think that's a great question. I think it's probably been an undercurrent of my life um, around, like early trying to fit, who do I need to be to fit in? Maybe
Mhm.
early on, where
Mhm.
authentic felt like I'm authentic if I'm like everybody else.
Uh-huh.
In some ways, like the opposite of authenticity, but this question about me as an individual and where I am, and how I'm relating to the situation and the context, the group, the role, the place I hold in my family, and that it's just like this ongoing question.
Right.
And then it's yeah, so it's like ongoing. And even now, after establishing myself in certain ways in the world of business and the world of leadership development and as a coach, and I'm still in this question about like what's has ultimate meaning for me as a human being. So it's like dropping into deeper questions around authenticity.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's
It's a
ongoing.
Yeah, it's a
On,
journey. It feels like a journey, doesn't it? Like you
yeah,
never really arrive at being fully authentic.
yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
how can you when you're always changing, right? So it's just kind of like this thing that unfolds with life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
And
I always thought of authenticity as people experiencing me the same way I experience myself. And it's occurred to me recently, and recently I mean by the last few years, that it's a lot deeper than that. To be truly authentic, you actually have to know who you are.
mhm.
And so many of us, me included, go through life at the effect of it rather than being intentional in it in a way that aligns with your values and what's important to you. And um, for me personally, I didn't know what my personal values were for a long time. I didn't know what my purpose was. I certainly was looking for it, ever since I was teenager. You start thinking about, why am I here? Um, anyway, getting to the place where you know who you are at your core
Yeah.
is what has allowed me to show up authentically and be as authentic as I can in my life.
Dana, when you said that you used to think it was this, and you said, are people having the experience of me that I want them to have? It was something like that. Maybe I'm
Yeah, people are experiencing me the way I'm experiencing myself.
right. So to me, part of that is like so much of that is limited by what's the experience that you're in rather than
Mhm.
like what's underlying
Right.
way of showing up. So we're always like influencing people by how we are,
Yeah.
but also sometimes I think we're shaping how we want to be perceived in a way
Uh-huh.
that may not be authentic. So I can be good at having people experience the way I'm experiencing myself or the way I want to be seen is another
Mhm.
way of saying it. But
Yeah.
that's not necessarily really the place in me that's really real. And I love going to the word real. Like to me, that's very provocative when we're talking about authenticity, because it's not like I'm in integrity, I can say, yes, I can just claim that I'm in integrity and kind of hold on to that. It's actually like a bit more compelling to like, am I actually being real right now? Or am I somehow holding up an image
Mm.
with, being the thing, the role that I'm supposed to be, being in accordance to the culture or the
Mhm.
expectation, where my realness actually is getting blocked off a little bit. So I wonder for you, did you have that kind of experience too? Like what if your values aren't clear, like how are you actually limited by that before you discover it, before you go deeper?
I think you're very limited by it, because now all of a sudden you're not living your life in the way that might align for you. I was living my life based on what I thought I was supposed to be, and how I was supposed to be, who I was supposed to be, and the job I was supposed to have, and all of those things. And I'm wondering, I'm going to pivot a little bit here. First of all, I love your reframe on authenticity as being real. And so in that frame, in that context, how do we bring that into our roles as leaders? And why is it important today that a leader be real?
I'm just letting that sink in a little bit because I know
Yeah.
you like to go deep, right? There's a first answer and then there's the deeper answer.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this conversation has to include the kind of stress that people are under in our organizations, the kind of challenges that people are living with post-pandemic living, with concerns about the world, with challenges in the economy, with our families, with our cost of groceries, like all those human things that are impacting our employees and our stakeholders, the people that are in our sphere as leaders in organizations. And I think if we really take in like the humanity, the stress that people are under, there's a way that being real is the only antidote, actually. Like acknowledging what's there is the only way to be able to move forward and thrive and do great things together through
It's
our mission. So my realness gives people permission to be real about what's true for them.
Mhm.
And if we acknowledge that, then we're freed up of the thing that dragged us when we're not being authentic that you were mentioning a few
Yeah.
minutes. I
Yeah.
think that's and just
As leaders, I think it makes us more relatable too, right?
yeah,
And it impacts our culture in our organizations. It impacts our culture and our relationships too.
definitely.
We're not real. I also would imagine that being real, having this ability to like relate to people um, and take down and to peel away kind of the layers that we surround ourselves with. Some people might call it a mask too. Um, it allows us to be more open and more creative, more innovative. It frees up space to think differently and to be more collaborative as an organization, as a team.
Yeah.
And I would imagine too that there's probably some pitfalls to being fully authentic, being real.
Oh, if we're too real, you mean the
Yeah.
real
Being,
without consent?
yeah, for being too real,
Yeah.
for being too open, too honest. What could some of those pitfalls be
Yeah.
in your mind?
Well, I mean, you're pointing to the dilemma of leadership, really, which is I need to hold a forward looking, progressive, visionary, inspiring view of where we're going and bring
Uh,
people along, like influence people. And there's a part of me in the realness, it's like recognizing we're in a bit of a struggle. where our financial results aren't great. We're not tracking for this quarter, or we're having trouble recruiting people and there's some weakness in the system. So I have to be big enough as a leader to include strengths and weaknesses, a sense of possibility, but at the same time, having some concerns that I'm grappling with. And my
Uh-huh.
discernment, like the wisdom of a good leader
Mhm.
who's real, is always choosing how much to disclose in what forum. What's the right time? What's the right framing? And this is where the expressing, I think this is to me is like really key, which is my authenticity isn't real until it's expressed, until I'm actually sharing it so that you
Mm.
can hear it. You can
Right.
understand what I'm thinking in my interior. And so for leaders, the expression of my authenticity at the right dose is going to be framing things in a way that lands well, that doesn't disturb people or discourage them. And it's not about not speaking the truth or my truth, it's about putting it in the context that allows people at whatever role or level or perspective they have, that allows them to join and find their way in, as opposed to being
Mhm.
blocked and kind of left behind.
Yeah.
So it's totally reasonable, the right dose, to say, I'm coming into this meeting, I'm a little bit, I'm concerned about this and this, and here's my view of how we can move forward. So it's including maybe more of reality, including
Mhm.
my emotional take on things, or what's maybe keeping me up at night. I might share the right dose of that, but it's always in that bigger context of my responsibility. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that's part of the dilemma, and the speaking, the appropriate amount in the right time.
Right. Well, and so it also has me considering whether or not, authenticity isn't all about how I'm being perceived,
No,
or the experience of me.
not at
It's
all.
also a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's, am I living my life authentically? Am I making choices, making decisions based on the things that align for me authentically, that align with my values, that align with the vision that I've created for myself in my life?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. So that alignment, I love the words alignment, integrity, and authenticity together as a suite,
Uh-huh.
because when I can find my alignment with my interior, I'm in integrity. And when I align that with my life in the aspects, my business, my leadership, my conversations, my relationships, what I'm practicing is being vulnerable, is being real, is being
Mm.
authentic, courageously. And this is that heart quality that you always like reinforce when we're talking about values and leaders.
Mhm.
Um, Being courageous in my authenticity means I'm willing to reveal those things that aren't visible on the surface, to bring more of who I am into the situation.
Yeah.
And it's not about how you perceive me, it's about me creating, just revealing to create trust. And ultimately, that's the other thing that's part of all of this, is staying in the creating the conditions in my authenticity that I'm more trustworthy, because I'm able
Mhm.
to reveal and be a little bit vulnerable and share more that's uniquely my point of view with you, demonstrates to you that it's safe for you to reciprocate. You can be more real with me. It's what
Mhm.
we're in together.
Yeah.
So that's that magical combination, that's
Right.
makes a I want to follow the leader that can be real with me versus the leader that's really good at formulating and more packaged. Like we can
Right.
feel it's
Yeah.
really.
I see that a lot in my Vistage groups,
Mhm.
where if you're not showing up authentically as a member of that group, and vulnerably, then the trust isn't as deep as it could be. We're not getting to the heart of the issues as quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so, oh, I was just gonna
Okay, go ahead.
like circle back on one thing, and maybe it's not necessarily circling back, it's coming full circle. So that um, so that we can put a bow on this conversation in a way. And that is how because this doesn't come naturally to people. We're I think as leaders, as a general rule, we have a certain need to be perceived in a certain way. And so we wear these masks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not easy to show up authentically. It's not easy to be real. It's vulnerable. It feels like uh, like we're exposing ourselves in a way. And so how do executives practice this?
Well, you're a perfect example of one way, which is to be in a peer group, to be able to be in a place where the culture of the conversation is held really intentionally to
Mm-hmm.
create safety, psychological safety. So, joining a group, I think, is a really big part of it. The other is to work with a coach. And so both you and I are coaching executives. That
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one relationship is really founded on a lot of trust and developing the right level of feeling, of safety, really beyond confidentiality, safety to be
Right.
real, to be vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to find people in our lives that we can practice with, where if I share something and feel awkward, the awkwardness won't get amplified or redirected as like you're wrong or don't be an idiot or some kind of
Right, right.
critique. Actually,
Judging, like we've got to be able to let go of the judgment, which
exactly. So finding good trusted people to practice with. And then the other thing that you said around the masking, sometimes we don't even know we're masked. We haven't placed our awareness and attention on our values, as you were saying. And so often the developmental work is for people to start unpacking like the self-awareness that maybe has been compressed a little bit to try to conform to a certain system or culture, or a culture in an organization. Like we join organizations and conform often without really being clear about how aligned my values are. So that alignment work is really important. I think that's also a good practice. But
yeah.
I could ask lots of CEOs if they have their own point of view, and they'll say yes. And then if I ask them to express it, they'll tend to find that more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, we can feel it, we can feel that sense of integrity or lack of integrity and being aligned.
Right.
So practicing clarifying that first person perspective is really important.
Yeah. So is there anything in particular we didn't cover that would put a bow on this conversation that we could go on and on and on about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you're encouraging me towards is the edge where being authentic is not always comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It involves discovering parts of myself that I may find easy to be with, but maybe also parts of myself that I'm surprised about, or maybe find that there's a little bit of an edge. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we're in the domain of going deeper into authenticity, I think courage is really crucial. And I think it's the courage to be myself includes the willingness to disappoint other people.
Mm.
I'm not going to live up to everyone's standard, and that I can claim that for myself, that my authenticity starts to become more important than pleasing people or showing up in a certain way. I can start to make that more important. And I think that's really core to what we're talking about. The
Yeah.
bravery around it, the courage is really about claiming for myself my sovereign right to be who I am, whether you want to like
Yeah.
it, need more of it or not. Yeah.
I also think that just to like tag in onto that is um not only do we have to be courageous about disappointing about the possibility of disappointing people, but also, I mean, how many people out there play small
Mhm.
because they're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings or
Mhm.
being seen as somebody, you know, more important or whatever. So the courage is also, the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Being able
Well,
to like shine your light, or shine your, what would be that saying?
this little light of mine.
Yeah, I don't know. Shine your
Yeah.
little light,
Well, that's right. So
make it bright.
being more fully yourself includes being
Yeah,
more your unique magnificence, you
right,
know?
right.
You've so much to offer. So it's being, that is ultimately, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about being more of the evil warlord, that's hiding in the shadows. It's about your best and brightest and true nature coming through.
Mhm.
And oh my
Yeah,
gosh, we so need more people to have those experiences and to support that. And I think that's probably why both of us are doing the work that we're doing, that we really care
yeah,
about that people. So
that's right. Well, I certainly hope that those that were eavesdropping on us today found a little nugget here or there. I know I did, always.
me
So
too.
thank you, Rebecca, for our conversation. I look forward to the next.
Me too. Me too. Thanks, Dana. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.